A former beauty queen shot dead in a luxury apartment, a mother-in-law caught on camera, and words so chilling they may define this case forever. So I'm Joseph Morris, and don't forget to like and subscribe. So before we begin, let's roll the clip because unbelievably, the mother who did this is still at large. And by the way, viewer discretion is advised.
Que loca. Nada, tú me dices comprar. ¿Qué te pasa? No tenés familia. Familia es mía. Tú eres mío y ella es tuya.
So I don't know about you, but that seems pretty cut and dry to me that showed the mother-in-law shooting her daughter-in-law dead. And I don't know why the mother-in-law is still free. Carolina Flores Gómez is dead. The 27-year-old former beauty queen was found with a gunshot wound to the head inside an apartment in Polanco, one of Mexico City's most upscale neighborhoods. Polanco sits in the Miguel Hidalgo borough. Think high-end restaurants, embassies, designer boutiques, and luxury residential towers. It is not the kind of neighborhood where gunshots are expected. So when reports came in of a shooting inside one of those apartment buildings, it drew immediate attention. But what makes this case unlike almost anything you've heard before isn't just the crime itself. It's who authorities believe pulled the trigger, what was captured on video, and what was said in the moments after the shots rang out. Because this wasn't a stranger. This wasn't a robbery. This, investigators believe, was family. Carolina wasn't just any young woman. She had previously competed as a beauty queen and, by all accounts, had built a life for herself in Mexico City. She was married, she had a family around her, and it was within that family unit that the violence allegedly came from. Surveillance footage from inside the apartment became central to the investigation. What that footage reportedly shows is Carolina's mother-in-law entering a room, and seconds later, shots ring out. Carolina's husband, the mother-in-law's own son, rushes toward the sound to see what happened. And in that moment, his mother reportedly said to him, quote, "She made me angry. You are mine. She is not," end quote. So let's just roll that back again. She made me angry. You are mine. She is not. That statement, allegedly made in the immediate aftermath of a shooting and directed at a son whose wife had just been killed, is what investigators say points directly to motive. It speaks to possession, it speaks to control, and it speaks to a dynamic that, once you hear it, reframes everything about this case. Authorities in Mexico did not treat this as a straightforward homicide. After reviewing the evidence, including the surveillance footage and the statement reportedly made at the scene, prosecutors moved to reclassify Carolina's death as femicide, and that distinction is not a small one. Under Mexican law, femicide is specifically the killing of a woman because of her gender, carrying its own charge, its own legal weight, and its own social significance. The reclassification signals that investigators believe Carolina was targeted not just as an individual, but as a woman, specifically in the context of her role within a family, a marriage, and a domestic power structure. Carolina, in the alleged killer's mind, was an outsider, an intruder, someone whose existence was seen as a threat to a bond that a mother apparently refused to share. Femicide statistics in Mexico are devastating. Advocacy groups have tracked hundreds of cases annually for years, and the number of perpetrators who face real consequences remains deeply troubling. The reclassification of Carolina's case was, in part, a statement that what happened to her would be treated with the seriousness it deserves under the law. Whether that seriousness translates to an arrest, though, is a different question entirely. Because here is where this case stands right now. The suspect, Carolina's mother-in-law, has not been apprehended. She remains at large. Despite the surveillance footage, despite the alleged statement made directly to her son, despite the femicide classification, the woman investigators believe walked into that room and shot 27-year-old Carolina in the head is, as of this update, free. That is not a minor detail. That is the central injustice sitting at the heart of the story. Mexico's justice system has faced sustained criticism for the pace of investigations into femicide cases, with advocacy organizations documenting suspects who remain free for months or even years due to bureaucratic delays, insufficient resources, or in some cases, corruption. Whether any of those factors are at play here is not something I can confirm, but the pattern is real. It is documented, and it is worth naming. Carolina's family is waiting for an arrest. Her husband, who reportedly witnessed the immediate aftermath of his own wife's shooting at the hands of his own mother, is living inside a situation most of us cannot begin to process. His mother is the suspect, his wife is dead, and the person authorities want is still out there. I want to say something directly here because I think it matters. Cases like Carolina's often get reduced to the most sensational details. The beauty queen angle, the dramatic quote, the luxury neighborhood. And yes, these details are part of this story. But Carolina Flores Gómez was a 27-year-old woman who was allegedly killed by someone who should have been family to her. Someone who is supposed to be a source of connection, not violence. The real story is that she is gone, that someone allegedly took her life over what appears to be a deeply toxic sense of ownership over her husband, and that the person responsible has not faced justice. Mexican prosecutors have reportedly been working to locate the suspect, and the femicide classification does provide additional legal tools and, in theory, additional urgency. Femicide cases in Mexico can carry sentences of up to 60 years depending on aggravating factors. If and when the mother-in-law is located and charged, the surveillance footage and the reported verbal statement will likely form the backbone of the prosecution's case. But the question is getting to that point. So my take on this, the alleged statement, "You are mine, she is not," tells you everything you need to know about what investigators believe motivated this crime. This appears to be a case rooted in extreme and pathological possessiveness. A mother who could not accept that her son had built a life with another woman. A daughter-in-law who represented a loss of control, and a tragedy that unfolded in real time on surveillance footage in a neighborhood where this kind of violence was never supposed to reach. What I find particularly disturbing is the alleged immediacy of that statement. Not panic, not grief, not confusion. Just a declaration of ownership directed at a son whose wife had just been shot. If those words were really spoken in that moment, they suggest someone who was not only capable of this violence, but who felt, at least in that instant, justified by it. That is the most chilling part of this entire case to me. And it is why the femicide classification, in my view, is not just legally appropriate, it is the only framework that adequately captures what allegedly happened in that room. Carolina deserved better. Her family deserves answers, and the fact that the suspect remains free is a failure that needs to be corrected. What do you guys think? Should the mother be arrested? Let me know. If you enjoyed this video, please hit like and subscribe and leave a comment because I try to read every single one. Thank you.